Endurance training during early adolescence, for example between the age of 11 to 14 years, should form part of an active, healthy lifestyle, but should not take precedence over other sport training. Specialisation in endurance running should not occur until late adolescence, when a young athlete's body is sufficiently mature and well conditioned to cope with the demands of this type of training. Endurance running training enhances aerobic capabilities by improving maximal oxygen uptake, e.g. VO2 max, and running economy. Put simply, running economy is how efficient you are as a runner. Both VO2 max and running economy influence the speed you can run at while exercising at VO2 max. Endurance running training also increases fractional utilisation, which is the percentage of VO2 max that you can sustain for a given duration. Anaerobic capabilities such as anaerobic capacity and maximal speed are also improved with endurance running training. Supplementing the training of an endurance runner with strength and sprint training can also improve anaerobic capabilities and provide positive changes to neuromuscular capabilities, which can improve running economy, maximal speed, and anaerobic capacity. These are all primary determinants of endurance running performance. The article published in the Strength and Conditioning Journal, titled Strength and Conditioning for Adolescent Endurance Runners by Richard Blagrove and colleagues, provides recommendations to develop sprint speed and muscular strength qualities as part of a well-rounded training program for adolescent runners, irrespective of whether sport specialisation has occurred. At least 2 S&C sessions per week are recommended. However, due to a young runner's lifestyle, other training commitments, and those unable to commit to 2 full S&C sessions per week, a novel approach is to prescribe S&C sessions using short periods of activity between 10 to 20 minutes, referred to as training units. The different training units include movement skills training, plyometrics and sprint training, resistance training, and specific conditioning. These training units can be integrated into an adolescent distance runner's week by being completed before or after running sessions. This presentation, brought to you by Talking Sport Science, will provide a summary of their recommendations regarding the programming of the 4 training units. We will now review the recommendations for each. Number 1. Movement skills training. The characteristics of movement skills training include mobility, general fundamental movement skills, specific running drill walkthroughs, balance training, and targeted activation of specific muscle groups, such as the gluteal. Example exercise prescription includes performing 2 circuits of A walkover hurdles, overhead squats, banded resisted walk, single leg Romanian deadlifts, Bosu balance, and split squats. Movement skills can be completed as part of a movement preparation warm-up, before running and strength sessions, or as an independent training unit. The inclusion of movement skills in the routine of adolescent distance runners is likely to reduce their long-term injury risk. Moving on to plyometrics and sprint training. The characteristics of plyometrics and sprint training include ankle stiffness, dynamic running drills, bilateral jumping, low speed hopping and bounding, and maximal sprints. Example exercise prescription includes sprints, low box rebound jump, mini hurdle jumps, and multi-directional hop and stick. Low intensity plyometric exercises, such as skipping, low box rebound jumps, and mini hurdle jumps develop ankle stiffness, and short range hopping tasks provide an effective stimulus to the neuromuscular system, which enhances running economy and improves endurance running performance. In terms of volume for the low intensity plyometric exercises, as an initial starting off point, between 30 to 60 foot contacts per session is recommended. For technical and maximal sprints, between 3 to 5 sets of between 30 to 60 meters performed 2 to 3 times per week is recommended. Moving on to resistance training. The characteristics of resistance training include bilateral structural loading, hip dominant exercises, unilateral loading, and upper limb exercises. Resistance training should include both heavy and explosive resistance training to enhance a runner's ability to appropriately control and express force during ground contact. Example exercise prescription includes med ball overhead throw, back squats, dumbbell step-ups, med ball lunge, and press-ups or inverted row. Exercises such as deadlifts, squats, step-ups, and lunge patterns target muscles of the lower limb and have similar kinematic characteristics to running gait, and therefore are likely to provide the greatest transfer to running performance. For explosive resistance training, loaded jump squats, medicine ball throwing, and weightlifting can be used. Upper limb exercises such as press-ups, rowing exercises, and overhead presses are recommended to offset the vertical angular momentum created by the lower limbs and aid in controlling excessive rotation forces. In terms of volume, between 1 to 3 sets of each exercise performed in a moderate repetition range between 8 to 12 reps is likely to provide non-strength trained individuals with a sufficient stimulus while developing skill in each exercise. Higher loads, for example, 80% of 1RM and above, and lower rep ranges, e.g. between 3 to 8 reps, are likely to be required to provide further overload in strength-trained adolescents with volume of work moderated through an increase in sets. Moving on to the fourth and final training unit, specific conditioning. Characteristics of specific conditioning include targeting the feet, calf Achilles complex, hamstrings, gluteals, and the lumbopelvic complex. An example exercise prescription includes barefoot pogo jumps, mini zigzag hops, and A-skips. Also calf press holds, bent leg calf raise, single leg bridge, single leg prone hold, and side planks. The focus of this training unit is to expose specific muscles or tissues that are vulnerable to injury to a high magnitude of load, which will provide benefit to tendon stiffness, tolerance to repetitive stress, and the ability to control positioning of joints within the lower limb. Specific exercises that target the lumbopelvic hip complex, e.g. core stability, are likely to offset the risk of common overuse injuries. Specifically, exercises that facilitate greater strength and control of the hip abductors and external rotators are likely to provide benefits. However, it is recommended that specific conditioning forms the final part of a session or is performed separately. This is because pre-fatiguing muscles in isolation is likely to be detrimental to performance in multi-joint tasks. And that concludes the recommendations for each of the 4 training units. as each training unit only takes between 10 to 20 minutes, it makes it easy to integrate some S&C either before or after running sessions. For adolescent endurance runners, including weekly S&C sessions over 8 to 10 weeks are more effective than increasing running volume. Non-strength trained runners can use a variety of strength methods to achieve physical gains. However, to maximise long-term adaptations in young athletes, a periodised approach is recommended, with fundamental skills training and resistance training prioritised initially. Thanks for listening, folks. See you next time.